Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a hilarious, fully animated, cartoon-style adventure. We're unpacking a fantastic story about a simple, everyday trip to school that goes absolutely wonderfully bonkers. If you like wacky car rides, funny misunderstandings, and picking up some cool new words along the way, you are exactly where you need to be. But before we start our engines, let me ask you something. Have you ever accidentally given someone completely terrible directions? Like maybe you were trying to show a parent or a friend a shortcut, and you ended up leading them in a giant, confusing circle. Think about that for a second, because that's exactly the kind of mystery we're driving into today. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, The Fun Uncle Arrives. So, our story begins with a situation you might know well. Parents are out of town. But for a brother and sister named Kavya and Kavi, this is definitely not a boring weekend. They're being looked after by their dad's brother, the absolute legend himself, Uncle Sumit. They are so pumped just to get ready for school, because Uncle Sumit is full of surprises. I mean, the last time he visited, he had them pretending to shoot an entire movie. Kavya's friends were holding up lights and cameras, and Kavya was literally shouting directions through a paper cone like a real Hollywood director. So on this particular morning, as they pack their bags, the kids are just buzzing, trying to guess what incredible surprise he has planned for after school. Now, our story uses a fantastic word to describe Uncle Sumit: adventurous. Being adventurous basically means you love trying new things just for the thrill and excitement of it. Uncle Sumit is always coming up with adventurous things to do, and that's exactly why Kavya and Kavi are obsessed with him coming over. Keep that word in the back of your mind, because today is going to be very, very adventurous. Moving right along to Section 2, Missing the School Bus. It's the crazy morning rush. The kids are hustling out the door, walking to the bus stop, and their imaginations are just running wild. Kavya is betting Uncle Sumit is going to take them to a football match. Kavya is racking her brain trying to figure it out. Or maybe, Kavi thinks, it's a trip to the bird park to see crocodiles. But then, complete disaster strikes. They get to the bus stop and nobody is there. Just their friend Rahul's mom. And she drops the absolute worst news you can hear on a school morning. "Oh, you missed the bus. It just left." Pure panic. The bus is gone, their parents are away, and school is waiting. What are they going to do? Which brings us to another awesome vocabulary word: wailed. To wail means to cry out in a really loud, high voice. And oh man, did Kavya wail. He yells out in this super dramatic, high-pitched voice. I can't miss that, because his Class 5C football match is today. Kavya is totally freaking out too, because she has a massive test. They are both in an absolute panic, sprinting all the way back home to Uncle Sumit. They burst through the front door, totally upset and out of breath. And how does Uncle Sumit react? He doesn't panic at all. Instead, he just playfully tries to defuse the whole thing. He suggests they just take a holiday. He literally says, "Well, you can take a holiday and we can go and see the vintage cars at Indiagate." Can you imagine? You're stressing over a math test and a football match, and your uncle says, "Let's go look at old cars." But here's the catch. He didn't actually mean it. The story specifically tells us that Uncle Sumit said this with a twinkle in his eye. A twinkle is when your eye shines with a light that seems to flash on and off. You know, that playful, joking look. He knew perfectly well he was going to drive them to school. He just wanted to make them smile and calm down a bit first. Okay, buckle up for Section 3, the crazy car ride. This is where the cartoon chaos of our story kicks into high gear. Uncle Sumit asks if they actually know the way to school, and the kids confidently shout, "Yes, yes, we take the same route every day." So they pile into his red car and the madness begins. The second they buckle up, Kavya and Kavi turn into extreme backseat drivers, barking orders like they're in a race car. "Go straight down Ring Road," Kavya shouts. Just picture it, two little kids pointing wildly, while Uncle Sumit is desperately steering the wheel, trying to keep up. Let's pause this chaos for just 1 second for another cool word. Kavi chimes in and says there's a big hoarding, which is a large outdoor billboard, for the new gymnasium. A gymnasium is basically a room or building for physical exercises. You know, a gym. Kavi uses this giant gym sign as his landmark and tells his uncle, "You have to turn left now." Now, Uncle Sumit is a pretty smart guy, and he is starting to get really confused here. He tells them, "But I thought your school was on the right somewhere here." But Kavya and Kavi loudly and confidently insist, "No, we have to go this way." And honestly, when kids are that confident, what can you do? Uncle Sumit just sighs and says, "Okay, if you say so." The frantic pace just keeps building. The directions get more and more wild and specific. Kavi yells, "Now go under that bridge." Then Kavya jumps in, "Yes, yes, into that lane where Nisha lives." Then Kavi points out Sonu's house, tells them they have to go around the park and straight toward the metro station. It's like navigating a crazy maze. It really shows just how absurd this journey has become. Just think about this wacky route. Down Ring Road, left at the gym, under a bridge, down Nisha's lane, around a park, and finally, a U-turn past the metro station. If you actually map this out, it would look like a giant bowl of spaghetti. It is ridiculously convoluted for a quick morning trip to school.
And that perfectly sets up Section 4, a giant circle.
The tension is really building now. Uncle Sumit has somehow followed all of these wild, winding instructions. Kavya finally tells him, "Now go down this road and then turn left." But as he makes that final turn, Uncle Sumit realizes something very, very strange is going on. He's looking incredibly confused, glancing back at the kids in the rearview mirror. He actually asks them, "Are you sure? I somehow feel we are going away from your school." He knows the general direction, and his internal compass is just screaming that they are driving the wrong way. So, where do you think they ended up after all those twists, turns, bridges, and U-turns? Did they actually make it to the school? Did they end up in a totally different city? Can you guess the big punchline of this wild ride? Here's the hilarious twist. Kavya proudly points out the window and says, "See, there is the school gate." But Uncle Sumit looks around and realizes a massive geographical truth. He says, "But we have come back to the place where we turned left." That is what I said earlier. We could have turned right here. They just drove in a massive, gigantic circle. And here is the entire big misunderstanding explained. When Uncle Sumit asks them why on earth they made him go round and round, the kids innocently reply, "But that is the route our bus takes. We only know that way." It's so funny and sweet. They weren't trying to trick him, they literally just gave him the directions for the heavy, slow school bus that has to wind through all the neighborhoods to pick up kids like Nisha and Sonu. They turned a 2-minute right turn into a 20-minute cartoon car chase. That brings us to our final part, Section 5, Staying Calm and Cool. This is where we look at the educational wrap-up of this wacky morning. Missing buses, getting lost, driving in giant circles. These are things that can totally ruin a perfectly good day, but they don't have to, and our story actually hides a really great piece of advice. The main takeaway here is be calm in tough situations. Think about the huge contrast. When they missed the bus, Kavi wailed and panicked, but Uncle Sumit? He stayed completely calm, he joked about vintage cars with a twinkle in his eye, and even when he was forced to drive in a massive, confusing circle, he didn't get angry, he just gently pointed out the funny mistake. Being calm makes everything an adventure instead of a total disaster. So, as we wrap up this incredibly fun explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Next time things go wrong for you, maybe you miss a bus, get totally lost, or things just don't go according to plan, how are you going to stay calm? Will you panic, or will you find the twinkle in your eye and just enjoy the wild ride? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.